Hello, Havoc Pilot here. Welcome to my flight from Bornholms to Salzburg. Bornholms is an airport in Denmark on an island. I've never flown there, so I decided to check it out. We're flying the Fenix A320, one of my favorite planes currently in Flight Simulator, as will it be for many people, I suppose. Oh, let's hop in. Looks like one beautiful little airport there. I like it. So, let's get this thing powered on. Battery 1, battery 2, and external power. Enable crew oxygen supply. Enable recorder. Let ADIRs align already, because that always takes about 7-8 minutes. Let's set the lights. Exit lights. And now let's get the flight loaded. Am I not real time? Yes, I am. Oh yeah. Forgot to generate my flight in SimBrief. So let's do that now. I have manually generated my flight plan and then passed it into SimBrief, and now it's generated. Oh, so there we go. We will be departing from runway 11, which is perfect for this headwind of 11 knots. QNH 1012. Alright. Opening doors with some stairs so that the passengers can hop on. Load the aircraft in real time because we have plenty of time until off-block time. Off-block time, of course, being when we start pushing back. QNH 1012, let's set it already. And let's initialize our flight. This is optional really, but I do it all the time. This is our preliminary load sheet that we can use to configure our flight. Afterwards, we will get our final load sheet. So zero fuel weight of about 62 tons. And 31.1% of center of gravity. Accept. AirRAC is up to date from June 16th to July 13th. Let's do our init. We're flying Beeline 7 HQ. This is a Belgian airline, not a Danish one. Right. The temperature is 21 degrees. And let's check our cost index. Which is 8. Not very high. Which means the engines will work very economically, but won't climb as fast or fly as fast. And our flight level for today is kind of stepped, but let's say the highest one is 350. Now let's request wind. This is really great because it makes your descending much more accurate. Let's configure the flight plan. There are no departure procedures, if I remember correctly. Oh, it's just selecting the airport and that's it. And then we will land on a runway 33, yes. To an RNP approach. I think it was Z, RNFZ, yeah, this one. And the star was body 1 Romeo. The VIA is ETROC. I just looked into detail of the whole flight plan, and so I checked out what the best entry initial entry point would be. So it's some work you have to do before. I will show you on the charts later on. So let's insert. Now there's this flight plan discontinuity. I'm not sure. To go to GOZOT, let's see. Let's take a look at our flight plan. Oh yeah, it's just a direct, so pretty close by. Because there's no departure procedure and the MCDU doesn't seem to know what to do with it, so let's just clear it. And now it will draw a direct line to GOZOT. Now we'll have to wait until the ADIRs have aligned, and then we can check the flight plan visually on the navigational display here. Yeah, no frequencies, but that's fine. Let's copy the first to the second flight plan. And now let's do our weights, which was I don't remember. Let's check the load sheet again. I like those two independent MCDUs in the Fenix. It's really comes in handy. Received messages, load sheet, and it was 61.9. Yes. With the 31.1. 61.9. Center of gravity of 31.1. Again, this is preliminary. We will get an updated figure when the plane is fully loaded. The fuel for today is fuel 6.3, 6,300 kilos of fuel, which sounds about right for the distance, I guess. Yep, seems about right. Let's do our performance calculations. So we'll be departing from runway 11. It's dry. Let's take 1 plus F. Flaps 1 for takeoff. Packs will be on. This is the air conditioning. Takes away a bit of the engine performance, but I don't care. This is the preliminary load sheet. Again, we'll have to redo this when the loading has completed. Yep. Let's calculate. And now it's a bit small, but it's I prefer to do it that way. V1 132. He rotates 146. And 146 V2. Because it's such a short runway, the V1 speed is pretty low and a bit away from the rotate speeds. Flaps 1 and flex temperature 52. Flex temperatures will reduce the engine output on takeoff, which saves on maintenance costs and fuel consumption. It's almost always used. Yeah. All right, this is configuration done. Let's see that the ADIRs have aligned, and now we can check the full flight plan. We do this to check if it's just looking okay. So let's do that. From Denmark to Salzburg is southbound. Yep, here's our top of descent. Yeah, this this is going to be a bit of a hard turn here, especially since it's in in a mountainous area. Oh yeah, here too steep a path. At Etrog, I think, if I remember correctly, we'll be at 10,000 feet, and then we need to come down to about 1,300 feet, if I'm not mistaken. So that means descending over a pretty short distance here. That's probably why the MCDU is giving this warning. We'll see how that goes. Not something you would decide in real life, of course, but that's why this is a simulator. You can try things. Okay. Normally you would, of course, do some basic checks, but I almost never do them because every time you enter this plane, everything is just as it should be. So it's a bit strange to me to check everything all the time. Halfway. Plan the pushback. So actually we shouldn't need a pushback. We can just go here and turn, and then go to here and then enter the runway here. So we'll do without the pushback. Let's set our temperatures for when the air conditioning will be running. And at 10 o'clock is about right. It will generate a temperature in the cabin of about 22 degrees. And now there's nothing much to do until the passengers are loaded, which of course takes its time. Let's check the temperature. Oh, it's 30 degrees. Oh, it's 30 degrees in the cockpit. Let's open a window, which we can do in the Fenix. And that should lower temperatures. Yeah, it's already dropping. That's one of those little details, you know, that just make this plane really great. If it was really hot outside, of course, we could start the APU, which would then generate air-conditioned air. Or we could connect a PCA, which stands for, I guess, pressurized conditioned air, which is just a hose into the airplane from outside that will send air-conditioned air into the cabin. That's also an option. I'm not sure what real-life airlines use most. If they will usually enable the APU for air conditioning, or if they will connect a PCA, I don't know. Yeah, sure. Let's yeah, this one. Let's check our charts. So, departure, there's nothing much here just yet. What I've already told. Just turn around and go to the runway 11 takeoff, and there's no departure procedure at all. It just says climb straight ahead to minimum turning altitude 700 feet. So on 700 feet we'll turn right. And I guess we'll have to do that manually, because it's not in the MCDU. There's a speed limit, yeah, that's in there, but the 700 feet minimum is not there. Or maybe it's the 1548, I'm not sure. No, that can't be it. So we'll just I'll just fly that manually, and then and then do the turn manually and enable autopilot somewhere here. Okay, let's get back. Charts. Arrival procedure was Badit, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Badit. It's pretty short. Just an entry point, a holding point, which is also the IAF. And then we'll fly to here, the RNP approach for runway 33 from Etrok. We could ignore the IF because we already have an IF from the arrival procedure, but it looks safest to me if we get to this point at 10,000 feet. Yeah, this one is going to be a bit harder than a regular approach. Of course, it will be flown by the autopilot until this last point here, which you can see here. The dotted line means that you should fly this manually, which is just from the decision altitude 1780 feet, which is normal. But yeah, that's about it. I'm not entirely sure how this would be flown in real life. I would say they would probably opt to land from the other side, which is easier, of course. It also has an ILS. But I felt like this approach is just way cooler. Yeah, now temperatures are rising in the cabin now, so let's close this down, enable the APU. Oh yeah, let's push this pin and I'll close it. There we go. We're almost loaded anyway. Master switch. Wait a few seconds. Start the APU. Now it'll take about 30 seconds or something until it's available. Here you can see this will start going up soon. And I think when it's about at 70%, it's enabled. Yeah, it really almost has to be at 100% to be enabled. So now we can disable the external power because the APU is generating the power. And we can enable APU bleed, which means that APU will bleed air into the aircraft, which will provide air conditioning. And so we should see temperatures going down for the passengers pretty quickly. Conditioning, here we are. So you can see that the temperature is going down. This is the air temperature that's going in. And these are the temperatures in the cabin. And this is an adaptive system, of course. If it detects that the temperature is dropping, it will increase the air temperature again. So as you can see for the cockpit, let's set our first altitude at 6,000 feet. That is pretty common for the when you do a departure procedure or SID. Boarding complete. Let's remove the external power, remove the chocks and cones. We're not going to do pushback, so the tug can stay there. And let's start the engines. First we'll set our transponder to auto so that it will register when we move on the ground. This is not important for offline play, but when you play VATSIM, they will ask you to enable this if you don't. And you should. Alright, let's start engines. Engine 2. Yeah, my throttle isn't perfectly calibrated, but that's not important. Engine is starting. Our final load sheet is there. 61 and 31.2. 61 here and 31.2. So this is the weights based on the final load sheet. There shouldn't be much difference, I think. Calculation again. Oh, right. I forgot to enable the fuel pumps, which is kind of important when you want engines to operate. Even though on the ground they function without fuel pumps, but you would get into trouble soon after takeoff, or even during takeoff. Let's start engines 2. It's kind of annoying. 121, 140, 140. Oh yeah, that's quite a difference. Yeah, let's change that. 131 and then 140. Yeah, 140. Engines have now started. We want to trim down 0.2, so that's 1, 2. And flex temperature is 54. Alright, there we are, accepting the load sheet. Engines have started, so enable the beacon light. We can also disable the APU now, since engines are running. Passengers are aboard, so we can enable the seat belts. But let's get the switch back to norm. If you don't do this, then it will keep igniting and eventually it will burn out or something, so best to set it to norm again. So set braking speed to maximum in case we have to abort the takeoff. Let's set the spoilers and flaps to takeoff flaps to 1. Lock the cabin. Reset the rudder. And we are ready for taxi. Let's enable taxi lights. Parking brakes. Enable power. Bit of a sharp turn, but nothing we can't do. off we go. Let's check all the inputs are responsive, and they are. They always are in flight sim, unless you enable malfunctioning, then it could random malfunction. But since I'm really not an Airbus expert, I don't fly with faults on. Okay, takeoff check, normal. Let's enable takeoff lights and TARA. The TARA is a radar system that detects other airplanes in the air and will warn you when you're too close, and will also automatically avoid other airplanes, depending on what version of the Airbus you're flying with. And it's something you only enable when you're about to take off, not earlier. So normally you would stop here, of course, since it's a full line on the taxiway, and then wait for your clearance from air traffic control. In this case we are offline and we are fully configured, so I just ignore those full lines. Lining up at the runway. Alright, and there we go. Engines to 50%. Braking. So we are braking at this point just to see if the engines will be stable at 50, and they are. And then we enable the chrono. Stick forward so that we stay on the ground, and now go to flex. Yeah, there we go. Slowly let loose of the forward stick and completely disable it at 100 knots. And now wait for our rotating speed. V1, rotate. Positive climb, gear up. Now fly manually until 700 feet above the runway. Sorry, altitude, not above the runway. We are at 700 feet already. Oh, so the flight computer did calculate 1,540 feet before turning right. Okay, thrust to climb. Yep, there we go. No, we are not there. Why is this not working? Okay, now we're there. Flaps up. Spoilers. We are still flying manually. Let's disable takeoff lights. And enable autopilot. Set chrono. Something really went wrong here. The flight plan kind of reset. Let's see, I've saved it to the secondary. Activate secondary. Here is discontinuity. Not allowed. Okay, let's go direct to GoSOT. I don't know what was happening here. So first I was not able to get it to climb mode. I never had that before. And then my flight plan was just gone. That was really strange. But luckily, that's why we save the first flight plan to the secondary. We copy it to the secondary flight plan, and if anything goes wrong, we can fall back to that one and enable it. I never had this happen before. Okay, let's start our climb to 350, flight level 350. It was probably a bit lower. It was a stepped climb, if I remember. So let's see what the flight plan looks like. So yeah, first it's to flight level 320. Yeah. And then from Rakit you will increase to flight level 350. Rakit. And where is Rakit? Okay, here. Okay, so when we are, this is our top of climb arrow, so at this point we'll be at flight level 320, and then a little bit further we will start our last bit of climb to 350. It's a bit of a strange stepped climb, since we could just, the distance here is pretty small. Let's get to standard pressure. Disable our lights and free the passengers of their seatbelts. We're fully climb configured. Let's check the weather forecasts at our destination. Hmm, 150 at 6 knots. And it will keep that way. Until, oh yeah, the wind will turn. So this is the forecast here, and it says that it will become on the 25th of June, which is today, from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock Zulu, which is in this time zone plus 2 hours. So from 10 o'clock until 12 o'clock noon, the wind will turn to 210 degrees and 7 knots. So yeah, that's why it's that's why we are going to land on runway 33 instead of the other side, which is yeah, it totally reset my flight plan. That is so strange. Runway 15. Right. 30 degrees of distance from 180. I should have known. This is so strange. Okay. I just checked the rain satellite images and it seems that we could have a bit of rain. But probably not at our flight level of 350. Yeah, weather looks okay at Salzburg. Always great views in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Really incredible. Never ceases to amaze me. Not that that is the most important thing for me in a flight simulator. The fidelity, the realism, and how it feels is much more important than how it looks to me, so that's why I also still like X-Plane. But Microsoft Flight Simulator has it both, you know, the feeling of realism, or at least high fidelity, and what I think feels like is real, because I'm not a real pilot, so I can't really know, but it feels really real, you know. So Flight Simulator has that, plus it looks amazing. So as you can see, our vertical velocity is 900 feet per minute, which is not a lot. But that's probably due to our cost index being pretty low. Still, this doesn't seem right actually. Our speed is way too low. Huh. Things really went wrong. Things really went wrong here. I have flown this airplane for quite a few times now. Did quite a lot of flights, and it's the first one where all kinds of stuff is going wrong. Oh yeah, I think I understand now what probably went wrong. So when we took off, I was struggling to get it into climb, and the flight management system will have interpreted it as a go-around. Yes, that is what's probably happened. So how exactly do I get it back to normal? I have no idea. I really have no idea. So now I'm just selecting the speed manually. Should be something like Mach 0.77. This does worry me because when we're going to land, we need the weather information in there. And since I cannot enter it anymore, I don't know how the landing will go. This is not what I expected. Hmm. Okay, worst case I'll have to fly it manually. Could be an interesting exercise, so. We're now at Rakit, which is our next climb step to 350. Does keep bothering me though. Flight plan insert, what would that be? Yeah, takeoff performance. Oh, now we have this. Yeah, you know. Let's activate it again. Activate secondary. Oh. Okay, now we are flying manually. That's okay. That's okay. Let's see. . Yeah, we just passed Rakit, inbound for Renki, right? No, Gerga. So let's do it direct to Gerga. Yeah, here, insert. Okay, now we're back on track. But we don't have our expected performance page. I wonder what pilots have to do in this situation. Or maybe it's a sim option. Would it be sim settings? I don't really care if I have to fly manually or do stuff. The only thing that troubles me is that I don't seem to be able to enter my arrival weather information. And this is kind of essential. Especially since we're doing the RNAV approach, and the RNAV approach depends on a correct QNH setting. And if I can't do that, I'm not sure what will happen. Of course I can set it here, but not in there. Alright, the point that was calculated just after takeoff was this, the thrust reduction height of 1,548 feet. Yeah. Company message. Yeah, I'm 1 minute late. I don't really care. So I have been asking about this issue that we're having here in the Fenix chat. Someone suggested to activate the secondary flight plan, which of course I did. Didn't work out. So this might be a bug. So no one in the Phoenix chat knows any solution so far. So we'll just keep flying, and like I said, flight landing manually if necessary. But I suppose that the flight management computer should manage fine, like it is doing it right now. So let's see what happens. Alright, so resetting the departure airport and the destination airport did work, but I had to manually add some waypoints. But now we're there. Thanks to some help from someone in the Phoenix chat. So let's enter the destination information. QNH 1017. Temperature 20 degrees. Wind is 130 at 5 knots. But the wind has not actually turned yet. Right, and our minimum is 1,780 feet. Good. There we go. We're almost at our top of descent. So we're almost at our top of climb, getting ready for our descent. I remember that initial approach fix was at minimum 10,000 feet, so I will set that. Yeah, now managed speed is also working, which is great. Let's set the radar to below. And let's arm auto brake. Let's also enable the terrain radar, since we'll be flying in mountainous area. So let's revisit the plan here. So now we'll be flying this arrival from Badit to Salzburg, VOR, and then from there we will fly to the initial approach fix around here, and then fly the procedure, of which the flight management computer says it's too steep of a descent path, but we'll see how that goes. I could use the air brakes, what's it called again? Speed brakes? Yeah, right. Add some speed brake there and see how it goes. The FMC has trouble with this here, so at Etrok we are at 10,000 feet, and then over the course of 7 miles we have to descend to 7,400. We would probably do that in about a little more than 1 minute, so that means that the descent rate of 2,400 should do, I think. So I don't really understand why the FMC is making a fuss about this. We'll see. So we're now approaching Badit, the first point of our arrival procedure. We're struggling a bit to keep up with the descent path. As you can see, our speed our descent speed is up to the limit here, defined by this pink line here. This is the lower speed, and this is the efficient speed, if I remember correctly. So we are at the highest speed possible, and we're still a little bit above the descending flight path. Well, we're slowly catching up though. So at this point I could use some speed brakes here, but I'll see what happens. And still, here you can see this blue arrow here, which shows that we will be at our assigned speed here, 10,000 feet, at exactly that point, so we should be fine. course, this is kind of a steep turn. So I will fly this a bit manually, you know, like a loop here to here again. We're nicely on the descending path, and speed is slowing down, so we're fine. I'll enable heading mode now. And then when I reach this point here, I will start a left turn and then turn right, so that we are approaching Etrog from the south. I should be careful though, since the minimum safe altitude around Etrog states 12,700 feet. So let's yeah, I'm already below that. Yeah, as you can see, it could be a bit dangerous with all these mountains here. Alright, so let's start our left turn. 110 degrees. Should be fine. Let's do a bit more. Like this. Fly a bit here and then turn back around. I don't think that it would be flown like this in the real world. It seems a bit too dangerous. How about the wind? Has it turned already? No, still the same. Oh yeah, that's a going to fly until this reaches my current altitude, so that we're right on the descending path. Yeah. No nav intercept. What does that mean? Why can't I go back to Itrok? As you can see, I'm absolutely not an expert in this aircraft. Okay, let's do it manually then. Oh yeah, here we go. Yeah, of course. I've overflown Itrok, so it disappeared from my flight plan. Yeah, I get it. Let's get the passenger strapped in. Our final approach fix where we will intercept the glide slope is at 4,000 feet. So let's set that as our next altitude after Etrog. Of course, I could already do this right now and the FMC would respect these minimums. I'm very curious how this will end up, this too steep path. But I will enable the speed brakes. You know, let's already slow down a bit to like 230 or something. Alt star, capturing our minimum altitude. You really have to respect your minimums here, that's for sure. You're probably already a bit too low here. (1017) is our QNH. That's ready for 4,000 feet. Beautiful view. Salzburg, where Mozart grew up. Iblet. Then go back to managed speed. For a bit, because this will allow an increase in speed and an increase in descent rate. Oh yeah, now I get it. The deceleration point is here. So we can't reach. Yeah, I'm going to enable the speed brake. We do about 4 miles a minute and we have 15 miles, 16 miles to go, so that's 4 minutes. And in 4 minutes we need to descend to 1,300, which is about, yeah, 6,004. Yeah, we should be fine. We should be perfectly fine. Okay, let's enable approach. already disable the speed brake. Let's also get those landing lights out. It's a bit early, but final app mode enabled. How about this? Huh. So here's where we have to be. Or about 7 miles out. So let's get flaps going. Actually, let's get the landing gear out. To create a bit more drag, yeah, so we can go to flaps 2. Flaps 2. Much better. And now we're 5 miles out. Flaps 3. And then flaps 4. Arm the spoilers. And we're set for landing. Runway 33, Salzburg. Have a bit of a tailwind. At 1,780 feet altitude, that's our minimum. Then we'll disable the autopilot and land manually from there. Actually, I've never flown an RNP approach with a final turn. Interesting to see how that works out. Okay, nicely lined up with the runway now. Pappies are wide, but that's to be expected since we have a higher glide slope with this approach.
Minimum.
Disable autopilot. And let's fly it manually. The sun is reflecting a lot.
100, 50, 40, 30, 20, retard. 5.
Bit late here. Oof. Ooh, very sensitive. Very sensitive. No, no, no. Terrible landing, but there's something wrong with the rudder sometimes in the Fenix. Even if you touch them for the slightest, they will run you in the dirt. And sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. I never have this happen with the Tolis in X-Plane, for example. Here we are in Salzburg. Really beautiful, really beautiful view. Okay, let's retract the flaps. Enable C. Really weird stuff sometimes. Enable APU. Yeah, array off. Spoilers off. Start APU. Landing lights off. Okay, taxi lights. We are at the general aviation parking. So I should get back. Yeah, I should get back. Let's disable engine 2. That's where we gotta be. And there we are. Engine 2 can come off. Parking brake is on. let's free the passengers. Yep, let's deboard. The door, forward stairs. Connect external power. APU off. Beacon lights off. ADIRs can come off. Reset the trim. Rudder trim to be exact. There we are, passengers are unloading. Set the transponder to standby and set it back to above. So this is just where are we? Yeah. So when you're taking off, you will set this to above because you want to scan what airplanes are above you when you're climbing, obviously. When you're in cruise, you want to set it to all, just to scan kind of in front of you and a bit below. And when you're descending, you want to scan the traffic below you, so then you set it to below. So when you get back, you just set this back to above for the next flight. And of course, as soon as you vacated the runway, you can disable the traffic advisory off, because it doesn't make sense when you're on the ground to be warned about traffic, right? We're almost fully deported. So let's disable all the lights. When everyone has left, we will shut down the airplane completely. Voila, deboarded completely. We will disconnect the external power, disable battery 2, disable battery 1, and now we're completely cold and dark. Well, that was quite an eventful flight and a pretty bad landing, that's for sure. But it's not the first time that I've had this happen with the Fenix. Touchdown and then it just skids right off the runway, and the reason for this is unknown to me. I'm not the best pilot, but I'm not that bad, and it never happened to me with other airplanes. So in my opinion, there is something wrong there with the Fenix, and I've seen this reported by other people as well. So there you go, Salzburg from Denmark.